You don't want to move very fast. You want to try to keep something between you and your target.
Tom Oar once strode across our screens like a living relic, wrangling horses, tanning hides, and braving Montana blizzards with a half-smile that said, "Nothing can break me." Yet the cabin lights flickered out, the cameras folded, and Tom disappeared into rumor. Friends speak in hushed tones, producers dodge answers, and fans replay his final episode, searching for clues. Was the iron-willed mountain man finally cornered by something even tougher than winter? We trace every overlooked footprint toward a truth that hurts more than anyone ever expected. The quiet legend of Tom Oar. Tom Oar never thought the quiet life he lived deep in the mountains would one day be broadcast into millions of homes by a satellite in the sky. Long before the cameras showed up, Tom lived the old way, carrying water from icy streams, fixing worn-out gear by lantern light, and guiding his mule team home as the sun set behind the hills. For him, comfort was a roof that didn't leak, and coffee strong enough to hold up a horseshoe. But in 2012, everything changed when a dusty truck arrived with a History Channel crew looking for true wilderness men.
And when he does that, he should get caught in the trap, and fear makes him head for the deep water to get away from whatever's got a hold on him.
The History Channel's new show, Mountain Men, set out to follow people who traded city horns for wolf howls and bright lights for a sky full of stars. Each episode carried real risks. Could a handmade cabin block a sudden blizzard? Would smoked deer meat last until spring? Or might an axe handle snap just when it mattered most? Cameras filmed breath turning to frost, rusty hands setting traps, and bears waking hungry after months asleep. Viewers soon learned that true freedom demands sweat and courage, and nature keeps a strict score. Tom agreed to join on one condition: no faking anything. The crew said yes, and their footage stunned even veteran producers. Audiences watched him push through chest-deep snow to reset traps, slice elk hide with a stone blade, and laugh beside a spruce fire, while the wind roared like an organ. His weather-worn kindness made him an instant favorite. Letters poured in from office workers craving escape, kids writing school reports on grit, and veterans needing the calm of open country. But fame cuts like a double-edged axe. Rental cars soon bounced down his muddy trail, passengers begging for selfies by his leaning woodpile. An empty mailbox sagged with hand-drawn maps, care packages, and pleas for lessons. One fan sent a painting of his mule. A retired banker sold his condo and built a shack after seeing Tom greet dawn with strong coffee and a grin. TV checks and sales of hand-sewn moccasins pushed his savings near $200,000, yet the new noise felt louder than a chainsaw. Time, though, beats any mountain winter. Years of rodeo rides and logging whispered through Tom's joints. Each thaw left sharper aches. Feed sacks felt heavier each fall. Neighbors noticed longer rests between shovel strokes, and the laugh that once rattled tin cups softened to a gravelly murmur. Still, a stubborn spark burns in his ice-blue eyes. Fresh stories wait in the timber, new tests hide beyond the ridge, and whatever choice he makes next could reshape what wilderness living means today. Meanwhile, viewers kept tuning in not just for survival tips, skinning, tanning, fire starting, but for the quiet lessons threaded through Tom's days. He proved that thrift brings freedom, that steady hands and a clear mind can build a life with no alarm clock. Families planted gardens, hobbyists learned deer tracks, and city kids practice not tying 12 stories high. Across the globe, the frontier spirit flickered back to life on every screen. Before we uncover the tragic story, let's explore the legend behind the Mountain Men show. Tom Oar's untold journey. Before television crews came knocking or fans knew his name, Tom Oar was just a man chasing something most people never really find: freedom. Long before he became the familiar face of mountain men, He was carving out a life far away from crowds and noise. Born in 1943 in Rockford, Illinois, Tom wasn't raised in the wild, but the wild always had a hold on him. His roots ran deep with stories of the frontier. His father, known as Chico, had once performed in Wild West shows and rode alongside legends. It was from Chico that Tom inherited not just a love for the wilderness, but a hunger for grit, self-reliance, and the old ways. As a young man, that fire inside him found its first outlet in rodeo arenas. Riding wild broncos wasn't just a sport for Tom, it was a way of life. It was danger, pride, and power rolled into 8 brutal seconds. By the 1960s, he had risen through the ranks of the International Rodeo Association, proving himself as one of the toughest riders in the game. His name became a quiet legend in the circuit, known for his calm focus, his bond with the animals, and his unmatched determination. But that life came at a cost. Rodeo riding isn't just about courage, it's about surviving bone-breaking falls and injuries that linger for a lifetime. Tom rode through pain most people couldn't imagine, often taping up a wound just to get back on the saddle. Yet each year, the pain dug a little deeper. The rodeo, once his greatest thrill, started whispering warnings. His body was wearing down, and the real question started creeping in. How much longer could he keep going? Then came a day that would change everything. It was Valentine's Day, 1970. Tom, 35 years old, was about to ride a bull named Woolly Bugger. As he sat in the chute, his hand locked tight into the rope, standard for bull riders. He braced for what he thought would be just another tough ride. But when the gate burst open, chaos exploded. Man and beast collided headfirst, and Tom was instantly knocked unconscious. Still tied to the bull's back, he was dragged and trampled as the animal bucked wildly. His body was pinned, his legs trapped under hooves. For 2 long minutes, the crowd watched in horror. His wife Nancy was in the stands, helpless as the scene unfolded. When rescuers finally cut him free, Tom was rushed out on a stretcher. He didn't wake up for 3 hours. The doctors said it was a miracle he survived, but the bull didn't. Woolly Bugger died from a head injury just 2 weeks later. Though Tom returned to riding only a month after that near-fatal ride, something had shifted. He was no longer the same. He couldn't perform like before, and deep down, he knew it was time to walk away. By 1981, the years of broken bones, surgeries, and sleepless nights had caught up. So Tom made a bold decision. With Nancy by his side, he left it all behind. The arenas, the lights, the crowds, and moved to the rugged backwoods of northwestern Montana. It wasn't a retreat. It was a complete reset. They chose one of the harshest places in the continental U.S., a remote patch near the Yak Valley. No roads, no stores, no power lines. Just snow, silence, and the wild. Winter temperatures could drop to 30 below. Food had to be hunted or grown. Water was hauled, wood was chopped, and every day brought new risks, from mountain lions to broken tools to blizzards. But for Tom, it was exactly what he'd been chasing all along. He and Nancy built their life from scratch, trapping, tanning hides, crafting clothes, and living completely off the land. Their bond was unshakable. They worked as one.
I guess I'm gonna have to start doing the dishes.
That'll be the day.
And slowly, word spread about the quiet cowboy making leather goods the old way. People found his honesty refreshing, his skills unmatched. He never sought fame. Fame found him. But even paradise has its shadows. Life in the wilderness is never safe for long. And what happened next shook everything they had built. So how did something so simple turn deadly in the blink of an eye? Stay tuned. The fall that changed everything. Tom Orr was past 70 when real doubt finally slipped into his cabin. For decades, he had proved that a man could plant himself in rock and snow and still thrive. In fierce storms, he tracked elk, reset traps, and laughed at the cold that sent city campers running home. Long before he felt old, people already called him a legend. Then, one icy dawn rewrote the story. The morning started like many others. Air sharp as broken glass, sky deep blue, snow piled high on the cedar roof. Too much weight could split the beams, so Tom grabbed his dented ladder and worn-out boots. Nancy begged him to wait for help, but Tom never let a chore sit. With shovel in hand, he climbed, chopping ice as he went. Then, everything slid. Maybe the rung was slick, maybe a gust hit him, or maybe age stole the balance he had always trusted. Whatever the cause, Tom crashed onto the frozen ground. The heavy thud broke the silence. The air rushed from his lung. Pain lit up his ribs and spine like fire. Nancy raced outside, heart pounding. Tom waved her away, mumbling that he was fine. But one look at his face said different. No ambulance could make it up their ridge. Nancy dragged him inside, wrapped him in quilts, and fed the stove. Hours crept by. Days later, after a jarring ride down logging roads, X-rays showed cracked ribs and a broken side bone. Doctors ordered rest, therapy, and weeks without lifting. Hard words for a man who lived to work. Recovery was slow. A load of firewood now felt twice as heavy. Simple tasks left him short of breath. Worse, the fall shook his confidence. The man who once scaled cliffs now hesitated at a step stool. Each creak of timber sounded like a warning. Nancy saw the shadow pass over him and felt her own strength fading. Evenings by the stove grew quiet. Questions swirled like ravens over fresh snow. Nancy studied the wrinkles on her hands, counting how many storms they had left, wondering how many more risks they could face. What if Tom slipped again? What if she were away getting supplies? No neighbors nearby, no children to call, just miles of silence. The mountains they loved for 40 years now seemed like a beautiful trap. Filming for Season 9 slowed. Viewers noticed Tom's shorter screen time and sent worried letters. Was something wrong? Off camera, Tom paced the clearing, testing what his body could still do. Money from TV and his handmade moccasins finally offered choices. Choices that pointed away from icy roofs and bone-numbing cold. One gentle spring afternoon, Tom and Nancy spread a map across the rough table. They circled towns with hospitals and winters that brought rain instead of blizzards. It wasn't defeat, Tom told himself, just a new trail. Yet as he traced the roads heading south, the ache in his chest had nothing to do with his broken ribs. Tom Oar walks away from the wild. After decades of living wild and free in the unforgiving Montana wilderness, Tom Oar did something no one expected. He stepped back. It wasn't about giving up or quitting. It was survival, plain and simple. After his terrible fall, Tom couldn't keep pushing through ice, snow, and solitude the way he used to. Fans of the Mountain Men show began noticing his quiet absence. He was no longer appearing as often. The man who once braved wolves, storms, and isolation was fading from the screen. But Tom's life didn't stop. It shifted. He and Nancy, his wife and lifelong partner, made a life-changing decision, one that stunned those who had watched him thrive in wild country for over 40 years. They left Montana, packed up their memories, tools, and hides, left behind the mountain trails and thick pine forests, and headed thousands of miles south to Florida. It was warm, flat, and closer to family. Nothing like the rugged land he once called home. But Tom's bones needed warmth, and Nancy needed peace of mind. Winters in Montana were no longer just cold. They were dangerous. One more bad fall could be deadly. The move wasn't about weakness. It was about protecting what mattered most. Still, for a man who had shaped his identity around off-grid living and raw self-reliance, Florida felt strange. Gone were the chores that gave each day urgency. No firewood to chop, no traps to check, no howling winds outside his door. In place of it all was stillness. He spent time crafting knives, working with leather, and visiting local fairs. His hands were still busy, but his spirit quieter. Even with the slower pace, the ache wasn't just in Tom's bones. It was in his heart. He missed the cold, the challenge, the sound of snow cracking underfoot, the calls of wild animals in the distance. In Florida, the days were soft, the ground too easy, and the skies too calm. The wildness he once knew so well now lived only in his memories. And then there was the weight of fame. Tom never wanted to be known. He wasn't an actor, and he didn't chase attention. But when Mountain Men became a hit, the spotlight found him. Letters flooded in. Strangers showed up at his door. He couldn't walk through town without someone pointing. While it started out flattering, it became too much. Tom wasn't built for a celebrity life. He just wanted to live quietly and honestly. Nancy saw it all. She watched the toll the accident took and the shift that followed. But she also saw the small blessings: warmer mornings, fewer worries, safer days. Together, they found new rhythms. They leaned on each other like they always had. Still, the distance from Montana remained heavy. They had traded danger for peace, but also left behind a world that had defined them. Now, Tom spends more time remembering than adventuring. But make no mistake, the mountain never left him. It shaped him. It still echoes in his words and work. Is Tom Oars still alive? Or has the wild inside him truly gone quiet? Stay tuned. Tom Oars is still alive. The truth behind the rumors. As the years passed and Tom Oars stepped away from the spotlight, confusion and worry quietly began to take root. Fans who once watched him battle blizzards and build a life from scratch started to notice his absence. Then, in 2020, the uncertainty exploded into chaos. A news site published what seemed like a heartfelt obituary claiming that Tom had died. It wasn't a sloppy error. It was deeply detailed, describing his life and supposed passing in a way that felt convincing. Within hours, social media was flooded with posts mourning the beloved mountain man. People who had followed Tom for years shared tributes, memories, and photos, believing he was truly gone. The news hit especially hard because it didn't seem out of place. Around that same time, Tom had noticeably reduced his role on Mountain Men. After Season 9, viewers began pointing out how little he was appearing on screen. Then came Season 11, the turning point. One particular episode showed Tom in the middle of the night, gasping for air. The diagnosis? His heart was weakening, and fluid was building up in his lungs. Though he received medical care and pulled through, the image of a once unstoppable man struggling to breathe stuck with fans. That moment, paired with the sudden obituary, was enough to convince many that the end had come. Several media outlets, more interested in clicks than facts, picked up the fake story, repeating it with minor tweaks and even more drama. Before long, confusion turned into accepted belief. For thousands, it wasn't a rumor anymore. It was reality, but it wasn't the truth. Tom Oars was still alive, still breathing mountain air, just in smaller doses, still walking, even if slower. He hadn't disappeared because he was gone. He had simply stepped back. After everything he had survived, rodeo wrecks, freezing winters, and isolation, he chose rest over the rush of television fame. And then, just as the rumors started to fade, 2024 brought it roaring back. New reports popped up online, claiming Tom had passed away peacefully in Lakeland, Florida, at the age of 81. These stories gave no specific cause of death, just vague lines that felt both suspicious and convincing. At the same time, more reliable sources insisted he was very much alive. Older, yes, and quieter, but still here, still living on his terms. So, what's the real story? Tom Oar is alive. As of now, at 82, he continues to live a slower, simpler life, away from the camera and far from the rumors. He's not chasing more fame, not angling for spin-offs. Instead, he values his health, his wife Nancy, and the freedom he spent a lifetime earning. The injuries and the near-fatal fall that pushed him out of the mountains weren't just physical. They were reminders of how quickly things could change if help didn't arrive in time. Yet, his mind remains clear. His stories remain vivid. And every time someone asks if he misses it all, Tom answers without hesitation, "I don't regret a thing." But how do you measure the worth of a man who never chased fame, yet inspired a nation? Keep watching. Tom Oar's quiet legacy. Tom Oar's life is more than just a tale of survival. It's a legacy carved into leather, stitched with hardship, and carried through generations. Long before he became a familiar face on Mountain Men, Tom lived a quieter life filled with both joy and sorrow. With his first wife, Janice Fraser, Tom fathered 2 children, Chad and Keely. Though little is known about that chapter, the loss of his daughter Keely in 2015 brought a wave of grief that ran deep. Losing a child is a pain few can understand, and for Tom, mourning in front of a national audience made it even harder. Yet, through the heartbreak, the Oar family proved unbreakable. Tom's son, Chad, now living in Ocala, Florida, the heart of horse country, found a new purpose. Running a successful horse training center with his wife, Kim Burnett, Chad chose a different but equally rooted path. Where Tom embraced the wild, Chad embraced discipline, structure, and the quiet rhythm of working with horses. It's a powerful reminder that legacy doesn't always mean imitation. Sometimes, it's about honoring the spirit of where you come from while stepping into something new. Back in Montana, Tom's presence on Mountain Men has left a mark. Fans still remember the emotional birthday tribute, a rare, tender moment that revealed the depth behind the rugged man. His sudden absence from the show afterward raised questions, adding a layer of mystery to a life already full of quiet battles. Together with his wife Nancy and his brother Jack, who also appeared on the show, Tom created more than a lifestyle. Through their Willow Bend trading post, they turned craftsmanship into culture. And though the numbers matter, Tom's real legacy is simpler, yet far more powerful. Tom Oar may have left the mountains, but his spirit still lives on. Do you think he's better off in Florida than in the wild? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe.